Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. It is time for another Spooktober video yet again, and today we will be diving into some horror stories from Reddit. As usual, I will have everything linked in the description box as well as the pinned comment down below. Our first story was submitted by Grim and Darkness, and it is entitled Girl on the Train. As I sat with my grandmother during a summer night in Dudley, she told me a story she hadn't even told her mother nor her children. She was around 8 back then, and they traveled by train to visit some family nearby. She was sitting by herself, looking around at the other guests, when she spotted a girl close to her age motion to her from a nearby corner. Confused, she pointed to herself and looked around, and the other girl nodded. Slipping off her seat, she walked over and knelt with the girl who had a few toys in front of her. "My name is Anna. What is yours?" The girl had asked my grandmother, who then told her, "Mary Ann." "Would you like to play with me? I don't see many other children my age on the train." Anna rubbed her hands together nervously, looking at my grandmother, who then frowned and said, "It's okay because I'm here now and I'll play with you," she assured her, and Anna's eyes lit up. She handed her a small handmade rag doll with a missing button eye. "Her name is Susie, and I want you to have her," she gleamed. My grandmother tried to refuse because she didn't want to take something meaningful away from this girl, but Anna insisted. They played, and my grandmother asked where she was heading, but Anna just shrugged. "I don't think I'll ever get there. I tried once when my parents were here with me, but," Anna replied, looking towards the door of the next train car. A frown on her face, she looked to be a mile away, thinking about something. My grandmother felt sorry for the girl, thinking that she had lost her parents and was going to offer her condolences. Still, an announcement over the intercom came on about the next stop and for everyone to remain seated. Her father then called her, getting her attention. "Mary Ann, what are you doing on the floor? Come over here." Confused, she got up and dusted off her dress, the rag doll still in her hand. "I was talking to Anna," my grandmother told her father, who was walking over and motioning behind her. He sighed and shook his head. "Mary Ann, there is no one there." He touched her head and she looked back over her shoulder, and when she did, no one was there. My grandmother was in disbelief, and she knew that Anna had been there. She talked to her and they played games, and Anna even gave her a gift. "Look at this," my grandmother said, holding up the ragdoll Susie with a missing button eye. "Anna gave this to me." Her father looked at the doll and furrowed his brow. "Where in the world did you find that?" My grandmother was growing frustrated, and she was adamant about getting her father to believe her, but he never did. When they got off at their stop, she pouted and crossed her arms, holding the ragdoll tightly. As they passed a memorial at the station littered with candles, gifts, flowers, and photos, my grandmother noticed one of the photos and pointed it out. "Look, that's her. It's Anna." She tugged on her father's shirt and pointed it out to him. She said the look on her father's face went from agitation to sadness, and he gently touched her shoulder. "Oh, Mary Ann," he spoke softly, looking down at her with a small smile. "Anna isn't with us anymore. What you must have seen was a ghost, and I'm so sorry, sweetheart." A ghost? My grandmother was in disbelief. How could she have seen a ghost when her interaction felt so real? She said that there had been an accident on the train and a man had shot a lot of people when he was trying to rob them, and it didn't go the way they wanted. Poor Anna had been one of those victims. My grandmother said she stood before the memorial and folded her hands in prayer, wishing Anna to move on and join her parents. She then felt a warmth come over her as if something heavy had been lifted from her shoulders. A small voice spoke in her ear saying, "Thank you." After telling this story, my grandmother pulled out a small bundle wrapped in a cloth handkerchief, showing me a rag doll with a missing button eye. It was Susie. I looked at my grandmother surprised and she smiled. Do you think Anna was able to pass over? I asked. My grandmother stroked Susie's one button eye and nodded. I would like to think so, she replied, wrapping the doll back up. I too wished for the same thing, that Anna was able to join her family and was at peace. The lonely little girl on the train who just wanted to go home. All right, so our next story was posted under the True Scary Stories subreddit account, so I think this is a real life story. This was posted by Scara Meowie. I think something is haunting my home. A few weeks ago, my dad left home to go to work in Mindanao. I was excited since he was going to bring gifts, such as toys and food. A week or two later, perhaps in the afternoon, I heard a familiar voice. It was my dad and my mom who was talking to him. I sighed and focused on my iPad. A few minutes later, my dad knocked on the door, and when I opened it, I saw him. He wore a gray shirt. Why am I mentioning this? This will be important later. Me and dad hugged each other and talked for a bit. I don't remember much about the conversation, but I do remember him saying, "Tomorrow I'll show you something." And he was acting really weird, but he's a weird guy, so I didn't think much of it. After that, I went to sleep. A few hours later, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was a bit dizzy, so I went to get a glass of water. And when I checked my parents' room, I saw that only my mom was there. I asked, "Ma, where's dad? Did he leave?" "What? Your dad is still in Davao," she said. I was flabbergasted. If dad was still in Davao, then who the did I hug? I explained to my mom about what happened and that I literally heard her talking to my dad, but she completely denied it. The next morning, I talked to my mom about going to the mall. She was feeling unwell, so she said that my dad could take me when he comes back. And that's when the memory of what happened the night prior flooded back. I told her what happened again, and she was just as shocked as me. She then called my dad, explaining what I just told her. I started freaking out when he said that he was wearing a gray shirt the day before. A few weeks later, and I somewhat forgot about the experience. My mom walked up to me and asked if I went to their bedroom and opened the closet. I said no, and she said that she saw someone opening the closet. She didn't mind it since she thought it was me, and obviously it wasn't. I stayed up all night so my friend who was living with me didn't leave the room. I didn't leave either since I was too busy watching TikToks. Dad thinks someone is haunting this area. I don't think the house is haunted since no one died in this house. Plus, my dad built it. My theory is that an encanto is toying with us. Encantos are deities or nature spirits that Filipinos used to worship and respect during the pre colonial times. Although this theory could be easily disproven, perhaps a gust of wind could have opened the closet. The only question is, who the did I hug a few weeks ago? If it's not my father, then who was it? Okay, so our last story for today is from No Mountain 9832. Why I don't play with Ouija boards anymore. This story takes us back to the 2000s. I was a little girl celebrating my friend's birthday. She always had a Halloween party to celebrate because that's when her birthday happened to be. She always talked about how her basement felt weird and she didn't like staying down there alone. Well, having 10 or so 10-year-old girls sleep over on Halloween night isn't exactly bedroom material, so her mom and grandma set us up in the basement. There, we played those weird games like light as a feather, stiff as a board, and stuff. Fun fact, I was the only one we successfully levitated. I remember opening my eyes and I was damn near the ceiling and it was spooky as hell. When some of us started to get tired, we brought out the Ouija board. A few of our friends were spooked so they didn't want to participate. We asked innocent questions like kids usually do. Who is the birthday girl gonna marry? How old are we gonna be when we have kids? Stuff like that. I remember I asked a question about myself and it replied, dead, which was weird. Some of the girls got spooked even more by that. Then a girl screamed and said that she saw something behind me in the mirror, and we stopped after that. For a few hours, three of us, including me and the birthday girl, couldn't sleep. We weren't sure if the board was real or not, so we decided we'd try one more time while everyone else was asleep, thinking that since they didn't want to play, it would be better that way. We were close to 3 a.m. What we heard is the witching hour. Remember here that we are about 10 or 11 years old, dumb, and have no idea what we're doing or who we are talking to. We asked the board if it could do something for us. We said at 3:15 a.m. to have the girl who saw something in the mirror wake up and say something to us. It was over 15 years ago, so I don't remember what we asked for this girl to say. All I know is we asked for her to look into the mirror and say it. 3:15 a.m. was about 20 or minutes from when we asked the question. I remember us saying goodbye to the board and putting it away. The three of us were talking about how impossible our ask was when 3:15 a.m. hit. We knew it hit 3:15 a.m. because her basement had a big grandfather clock that didn't ring anymore, but the clock function still worked. We were waiting, and right before the time changed to 3:16 a.m., it happened. This girl shot straight up out of her blankets and looked straight at the mirror with her eyes closed. She whispered what we asked her to say, then dropped to her pillow like nothing ever happened. We all just looked at each other, frozen. No other girl that was sleeping stirred. None of them moved, not 1 centimeter. We were so freaked out that we didn't sleep until the sun came up, and in October, in the Midwest, that's pretty late. We got 3 hours of sleep, tops that night. This was my first ever Ouija board experience, and that changed the way I viewed spirits forever. I still think about it and feel guilty that I basically asked for one of my friends to be possessed. Needless to say, don't ever do that. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next one.